Now I have the honor of introducing a very special award that we present every year at this convention. The IDEA Jack LaLanne Award is given to an individual who has made a significant and lasting contribution in the areas of fitness, nutrition, and wellness by promoting the benefits of exercise and healthy eating, and who has inspired the world to fitness through his or her work in the media or public eye. This prestigious award was created in 2011 and given posthumously to Jack LaLanne in its inaugural year. In 2012, Jane Fonda received the award, and last year, Alberto Beto Perez was the recipient. The award honors the lifelong dedication of the godfather of fitness, Jack LaLanne, who worked tirelessly to educate Americans on the importance of being fit. Jack was a chiropractor, bodybuilder, and personal trainer who gained worldwide recognition for his success on his television show that ran nationwide for 34 years. Jack would have celebrated his 100th birthday this year. Here to present the 2014 IDEA Jack LaLanne Award, please welcome Elaine LaLanne.
Oh, well. Well, I'm back. I'm back. Last year I said, well, I'm back, and you thought that was kind of funny. So this year I said, well, here I am again. And believe it or not, I'm 88. And I can still do a push-up. Oh, okay. You want me to do one? Okay. Oh, all right. Okay. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's enough. That's enough. Oh, well. Oh, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Maybe until I die, I hope. You know, I have been so blessed in my life. I might have been dead by now if I hadn't met Jack LaLanne. And he helped me change my life from a cigarette, yes, I did smoke cigarettes, smoking junk food junkie to a convert for healthy living. And I'm also blessed to be here to see all of you. And you are examples of healthy living. And you're carrying on all of this philosophy. You are all examples of fitness and helping people to help themselves. Jack always said to me, he said, all I want in life is I want to help people to help themselves, and that's what you are doing right now. And you're all to be congratulated. I'm giving you a standing ovation. You know, speaking of being examples of physical fitness, and one of Jack's favorite sayings was, what the mind can conceive, the mind can achieve. But his one that he said in every lecture, everything, if I heard it once, I heard 10,000 million times. Anything in life is possible, and you can make it happen. Yeah. So right now, it is my really distinct pleasure to present the 2014 Jack LaLanne Award to a true champion who has been named the toughest athlete in the world, Nyad. Not only is she toughest athlete, but she's got personality plus, I'll tell you that. And at the age of 64, in her 5th and final attempt, Nyad successfully fulfilled her lifelong dream of completing the 110-mile swim from Cuba to Florida on September 2nd, 2013. And completing her grueling 53-hour journey, a breathless gal told the world, I have 3 messages. 1, we chase we should never, ever give up. Never, ever give up. 2, you are never too old to chase your dreams. And 3, it looks like a solitary sport, but it takes a team. Okay? Diana has never been one to quit. In July of 2010, at the age of 60, she began her extreme dream quest of swimming from Cuba to Florida, a task she had failed to finish 30 years before. And when asked her motivation, she replied, "I'd like to prove to the other 60-year-olds that it's never too late to start your dream." She was unsuccessful in her quest in 2010 and tried 2 more times in 2011 and 2012. And last year, in 2013, she completed her historic swim, and she never, ever gave up. And now let's take a minute to look at the highlights of her amazing career, okay?
Diana Nyad started as a competitive swimmer at just 7. By 22, she took a dip and made a huge splash, swimming 28 miles around the island of Manhattan. Soon after, she decided to embark on a much more ambitious journey, swimming more than 100 miles from Cuba to Key West, Florida. But that would become a far more elusive goal.
The Cuba swim is rough. I think I'm capable of making it.
In 1978, she tried and failed and officially retired from swimming on her 30th birthday.
I thought to myself, I will never swim another stroke in my life.
But at the age of 60, Diana shocked the world and returned to conquer the dream that had eluded her for decades.
Now to Diana Nyad, all eyes on the legendary athlete making one more attempt to swim from Cuba to Florida.
Finally, on her 5th attempt, September 2nd, 2013, Diana became the first person to swim from Cuba to Florida without a shark cage.
We should never, ever give up.
After 36 years, she once again emerged from the sea victorious.
You're never too old to chase your dreams. That's right.
Yes, you're never too old to chase your dream. And right now, let's all welcome Diana Nyad. Come on in now, Diana. Hey! Thank you. Thank you. I want to present you with the...
Let me say hello to them first.
Okay.
Hello!
Woo! Hey! Great. I want to present you with the 2014 Jack LaLanne Inspirational Award from IDEA. And there you have it.
I am so
God bless
proud.
you.
Thank you.
I'll tell you.
Thank you, Elaine.
Personality plus, like I said.
Thank you so much. You know, people often ask me who I admire. You know, it's a question, and they really want me to come up with a particular athlete. And truthfully, come on. We start with Elaine. We go to Jack LaLanne. And how about Lynn and Augie? Talk about not giving up. This is the entertainment part of my show. Yeah! I don't have to tell you, I'm looking out at a bunch of like-minded faces and biceps. Revelry, get up early, don't let it go by. And so we all live that world, and maybe you're too young to have actually watched Jack LaLanne on television. Even I'm too young. I don't get to say I'm too young for anything anymore. But we have never had a human being committed to the health of the body and fitness for all Americans like Mr. Jack LaLanne. We can never forget him. You know, for me, really, it all started the day I turned 5. I had a Greek-Egyptian father, And first of all, he spoke in a very thick accent, buzzing Z's and rolling R's. And I had a French mother who spoke in a very thick accent also. So, you know, it's entertaining to grow up in a home where you have to ask both parents to repeat themselves constantly to understand them. But my father was a larger-than-life character. He told grand stories, and he, you know, just everything was kind of a tearful moment of exaltation for Aristotle, Zenith, Nyad. And the day I turned 5, he called me into the den, and over here on the desk, he had opened Webster's unabridged dictionary, this large dictionary, and he says to me, "Darling, I have been waiting for this day. Today you are 5, and today you are going to understand the most important thing I will ever tell you. Come here, darling. In the dictionary, the important book, in bold black and white, is your name, my name, the name of my people, darling. And tomorrow, you will go to your little school and you will ask your friends if their name is in the dictionary. And they will tell you no. You are the only one, darling. Come here. Listen to me. Nyad. In Greek mythology, my people, the nymphs that swam in the lake, ocean, river, and fountain for the gods. Now listen to me, darling. Are you listening to me? Come here. Definition number 2, this is the important one. Nyad, girl or woman champion swimmer. Oh my God, darling, this is your destiny. Well, you know, I was only 5. I didn't really know what a swimmer was. What I heard was the word champion. And it wasn't that much longer after that, elementary school, I had a geography teacher who was an ex-Olympic swimmer. And after my father, he was the most charismatic person you'd ever met in your life. And he said that any kid that came out for the swim team would get an A in geography. I was at the pool the next day. He had all of us swimming up and down. And after about 15 minutes, he just wanted to see what he had. I stopped in this lane over here, and he was standing over the lane, and he yelled down, and he said, "Hey, kid, what's your name again?" And I said, "Nyad." And he said, "Nyad, you're going to be the best swimmer in the world." It wasn't too long after that. I was a swimmer. 4:30 in the morning, every morning, I thrived on the discipline. And the Cuban Revolution broke out. I was 9 years old, and overnight, thousands of Cubans came flooding into my town, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We were doing the salsa in their living rooms. We were eating Cuban food. The Cuban flags were flying from our flagpoles, and I had a mystique about that island. My parents used to go dance salsa in the sexy Hotel Nacional in Havana in the days of Sinatra and the Rat Pack. And one day I was standing on the beach with my mother. And my mom, you know, I was asking her, "Where is Cuba?" I said, "I know it's out there somewhere. We just can't see it. Where is it, Mom? Where's Cuba?" And she said, "Okay, come here. I'm going to show you." Always with the mouth. The French, you have to go like this. Come here. No, you lift up your arm, and you're going to look, pointing, no, they're over this way more. Right there. Cuba is right there. As a matter of fact, it's so close, you could almost swim there. So sure enough, I became a champion swimmer. And sure enough, there were other swims, Manhattan Island, Lake Ontario, but it was always Cuba. Cuba for me, even in my 20s, wasn't about sport. It wasn't about halls of fame. It was about character. It's the Mount Everest of the oceans. It's been stamped impossible. People have been trying it since 1950. It's Mother Nature on steroids out there. We could put down the nautical charts of the Earth's surface on this stage, all of us, and throw out, you know, the Antarctic Circle and some of the more unrealistic places, because you've got to be around the equatorial belt. It's going to be a couple of days of non-stop swimming, more than that actually, and you need to be in fairly warm waters. But you could not find a more difficult 100-mile-plus stretch than this stretch. And it's partly the box jellyfish, the most venomous poison in all of the Earth's oceans. When you are stung, you usually die. It's usually a fatal sting. Somehow I survived, and I went 24 hours in a state of anaphylactic shock. Your spinal cord feels like it's paralyzed. A shard of jellyfish, box jellyfish, tentacle, just the length of your forearm, just this long, has 300,000 harpoons in it. And when that tentacle whips across your skin, all of that venom is imploded into your central nervous system immediately. Your heart and your lungs go down, and I was just lucky to survive it. 24 hours later, dusk came again, and bam, we hit the box jellyfish again. So there was innovation. You can imagine the sensory deprivation. I have such great respect for all the, especially all athletes, but especially the ultra endurance athletes who are out there running across the Kalahari Desert. And you're probably some of them. I'm looking around. But I think the alpine climbers come closest to what I do out there in the extreme swims. Ed Viestiers is a friend of mine, and he's climbed Mount Everest more than any other human being without bottled oxygen. And Ed says that when he gets to about 28,000 feet, Everest is right at 30, he can only take one step of a couple of inches, not a big step, just a little step like this, and then he has to stand there and breathe 25 deep, deep breaths to compose his lungs enough at that thin air to then take another few inches forward. 25 more steps. I don't know what the duress is like at the top of the world, but out where I am, several days nonstop at a time, having your eyes covered with fogged over goggles, turning your head 5 times a minute this way, tight goggles over your ears to keep the warmth in. Unlike any other sport on the planet, I'm in a state of deep sensory deprivation. After a while, your mind is woo, and it takes focus. I developed a series of 85 songs. Now, I'm not listening to headphones. I hear them in my head, and I not only use them to pass the time, but I use them to count time, because after a while, you've developed this metronome, you know? You know exactly how many minutes have gone by, how many hours have gone by the stroke. And if I sing, for instance, in the middle of the night when it's quiet and it's eerie, and the shark divers are saying that they see pairs of eyes of the predators underneath. They're never allowed to touch me, but the divers at night, we use no lights. Lights attract jellyfish and baitfish and then sharks, so we go black of night, and they're in there close to me, and I'll never forget their bravery. They put their bodies in between me and those predators at night, and I'm up on the surface singing, I hear you knocking at my cellar door. I love you, baby, can I have some more? Ooh, the damage done. And by the way, if I sing Neil Young's The Damage Done 1,000 times in a row without a break, I will come to 6 hours and 45 minutes on the dot. Yeah. And I actually got a chance to talk to Neil Young about that. And he said, you know, I'm just so surprised. I would think you'd be out there singing Hallelujah, you know, but you're singing about heroin addiction in New York City. Just, I know, but I love that falsetto voice. It's magic to me out in the middle of the night. I have a team, 44 people. They're in charge of the sharks, the jellyfish, the nutrition. They are out there in kayaks with electronic shields on the bottom of the boat to create an elliptical field of electricity. Everybody's got their important place, and Bonnie is my head handler and my best friend, and she's really in charge of my life. She's over here close to me on a boat that's very low slung to the water with her team, and we are dealing with crises all the way across, even in training swims. There are hallucinations, and there's hypothermia, and there's nausea, and there's just plain pain, and there's constant hydration, and there's nutrition, as you can imagine. After a while, you're in salt water, you don't feel well, you're trying to eat in the supine position, so the digestion isn't working very well, and you know, you're never gonna make it without the fuel. So in the beginning, we've got all this stuff planned, the protein shakes and the pasta. You know, she takes fistfuls of pasta and drops them in my mouth. There will be a job waiting for me at SeaWorld. I'm ready for SeaWorld when the bottom falls out. And, but I'm never allowed to touch the boat, never allowed to get outside the boat, but we're close by. Even if I need an injection, I can just get on my stomach and they reach over, the doctors, and give an injection into the buttocks, and it's an extreme enterprise. After about 35 hours, and I must say, you know, it's a tough sport, it's grueling, we all can see that, but the truth is, in my 20s, I swam more out of rage, and maybe I had good reasons for that. But in my 60s, there were some tough days that were hard to get through in the training, but there was a lot of joy also. There's the depth of friendship with these people on board. Nobody ever gets paid a cent. We're out there for adventure and the collective courage of doing something that's never been done. There's discovery. You know, I wound up, after being stung by the box jellyfish, going to a prostheticist, and he makes beautiful silicone masks for people who've been in burns and fires, and you know, had grenades blow up in their faces in war, and they can't have their non-skin face exposed, and he made a silicone mask for me. It wasn't easy to swim in, but I never could have gone back for that 5th time without something new to get through those deadly animals. Sometimes I actually have this sensation that I'm swimming over the curvature of the earth. It's so magical out there. I'll stop in training swims. In Cuba, you don't take many breaks, and you don't spend a long time unless you're in crisis, because if you can picture, I'm trying to swim about north, due north, Havana to Key West, like this. And the Gulf Stream is over here. It's coming raging out of the Yucatan Channel, squeezed there, and it is flowing hard to the east across this way, 4 times faster than any swimmer can swim. So you're going north, it's going east, and every time you're stung with jellyfish, you're vomiting because of, you know, wave action, saltwater intake, you stop and you're treading and you're dealing with your team over here, you're being dragged east, and pretty soon this tangent, this was the closest place, 100+ miles. Now you're over here, and the tangent to shore up here, Florida's curving away, gets to be 120. Then you get over here and you're closer to the Bahamas. After my 4th try, the team actually stopped me. The navigator said after 51 hours, "How do you feel about going to the Bahamas?" Because that's where we're going. I said, "Not good. I want to go to my country, the USA." And I noticed that all of that, you know, tripping out on the majesty of the universe, occasionally I'll stop, especially in training, and, you know, take more like 15 minutes on a feeding instead of a quick take it down and get going again, just to, you know, be in a state of wonder, being immersed in this jewel of a blue planet of ours by day, by night looking up way out there at 4 billion stars, and just being in awe of this life we get to live on this planet. And I'll say to my team, "You guys, I was reading Stephen Hawking last night, and he has this one sentence where he says, at the moment before the Big Bang, all of this matter and this energy that we know of in this universe today was compressed literally into the size of a millionth of a penny. Come on, doesn't that blow your mind? And so, you know, we're in this state, and I must say that that state usually comes right along with sleep deprivation, which for me would usually come at around 30, 35 hours. And sometimes you just can't grasp onto reality. And the second night of our third try, I breathed to the left, and my boat's over here, and I thought that can't be, and I just kept looking. Every time my head would come back down, I just kept looking. You know, you don't see well after a while, and I thought, it is there. I see the yellow brick road. And then when I would look carefully, it wasn't those people who should be on the yellow brick road. It wasn't Dorothy and the Tin Man. It was those little guys with the knapsacks, the 7 dwarfs. And they were trudging along like this, and I yelled up to Bonnie, I said, Bonnie, I see the yellow brick road and the 7 dwarfs are walking along it. Do you see them? And she said, oh yeah, I see them. Yeah. And she said, you know, the great thing is that they are going right where you're going. So you just follow them the rest of the night. And it was just so entertaining. Yeah. I saw them marching along, and because I breathed to the left, my right ear dips underwater, and just faintly, but I heard them going, hi-ho, it's off to work we go. You know, I didn't swim for 30 years. I tried Cuba when I was 28. It was my big dream. Went 42 hours way off here into the Gulf of Mexico. We didn't know what the heck happened. We've learned in subsequent years what those swirling eddies are on the edge of the Gulf Stream. They're difficult to predict, and now we have space telemetry. We have more technology to try to help somebody get across that passage. But I tried again the next year, and after training all year long for it, we couldn't get visas to get into Cuba. So I swam from the Bahamas to Florida, which was, you know, no slouch of an event. But it wasn't the hard event for me that Cuba was. And then right then I was turning 30, and you know, I guess it's the time that most world-class athletes think about retirement. I was getting offers from the wide world of sports, and again, a lot of you might be too young, but since I was a kid, to have the chance to say the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat on the air, you know, and you make some good money, travel the world, follow the great athletes from Olympic Games to Wimbledon's. It was intoxicating, and it was my time. And I can't say that during those years, 30 to 60, I stayed in shape, and I had my own fitness business, and you know, I was a total badass, rode a 100-mile bike ride every Friday, etc. But I wasn't a swimmer anymore, and I would watch whenever somebody would try to swim from Cuba to Florida. And I like to think I'm a sporting person. When they wouldn't make it, I'd be at home doing a little happy dance, like, oh, the dream is still alive for me. And during all those years, how can I complain about it? But the truth is, toward the end of it all, I started to feel like a spectator. I wasn't a doer anymore. All I did was talk about other people who were doers. And during that time, I met so many extraordinary people, as you can imagine, but the bravest soul I ever met was Christopher Reeve. Yeah. Talk about being relegated to a spectator role. Chris loved sports. He loved athletes. He loved their philosophies of life. And he asked me one day, he said, we always talk about athletes and all the great jocks you've met and what they think and what's at the heart of their, you know, their enterprise. And I don't know your story. What's your story? And I said, well, you know, the first long-distance swim I ever did was across Lake Ontario. And it was cold that day. It was 48. And I've never been a terrific cold water swimmer. I'm much better long distances in warm water. That's where I excel. But I did Lake Ontario. I was standing on the beach, and 444 people are going to hear a gun and race from Niagara on the lake all the way over to Toronto. It's a long, cold day ahead, more than a day probably. And I'm getting used to the fact that the men and the women compete equally in this sport. So as I'm getting ready, I've just been greased in 10 pounds of wool fat lanolin for the cold. And by the way, that's a singular experience right there. You know, you can just do that and go home and tell people you did that. I'm noticing that, you know, the Egyptian guys are over here getting all greased down, and they're looking kind of bulky and muscular, and I'm looking at the Argentine guys over here. They're a little more slender, but they're muscular, and I think, whoa, that first half mile is going to be some like big wrestling match, and I'm a little intimidated. The cold, the guys, and the world champion at the time for women, the greatest long-distance swimmer in the world, was a Dutch woman named Judith de Nijs. Judith was 6'1", 182 pounds. Oh, she looked a little more like a tight end than a swimmer, and she picked this moment. I'm telling Chris this story backstage at a speech we were at, right before we're about to start the race, and she comes swaggering across the beach to me over here, and she takes a large index finger. She jabs it on the grease on my chest. I was so intimidated, I just stood there, and she jabbed it with every syllable. I had a bruise this big for a month. And she said, I hear you're a very good swimmer. Well, you're not going to beat me. And she went swaggering off, and I know this can't be true, but I thought the beach trembled slightly when she walked. And I said to my coach, I'm not going in. These people are animals. And the gun went off, and I went swearing in Arabic like all the Egyptians. And I got in there, and it was a cold, long day. But I started getting signals. As I said, you can't touch the boat, but you come close to get your food and, you know, get signals from your team. And they're telling me that Marwan Ghazaoui has dropped out, and I've passed Claudio Plitt from Argentina. And I finished in 37 hours, 38 minutes. And I was third among all the men that day, and Judith de Nijs announced her retirement from the entire sport. But the real point of that story, as I was telling Chris, was I was cold, my core temperature had gone down, I was taken to a hospital in Toronto, I was put in a chair in a corner of an emergency room with a Mylar blanket wrapped around me. So I was just sitting there shivering, waiting to be taken care of. And right then, a guy was rolled in on a gurney, and he was in pain. He was grimacing and crying out loud, and I found out later he had been in a cigarette boat accident on Lake Ontario that day. His boat had flipped, and now he had a broken pelvis, a broken jaw, and internal injuries. He was in bad shape, and they rolled his gurney over close to me, so our faces were about this far apart, and they all left, and we were sitting next to each other, and he's like grimacing, oh, God, and I'm shivering out loud like this. And I think just to pass the time, get his mind off his pain, he asked me what I was doing in there, and I said, I just swam across Lake Ontario. It took me 38 hours. And he said, why the hell did you do that? And then I found out how beat up he was, and I asked him similar questions. But what he told me was that he loved the adrenaline. He was a junkie at feeling that alert and awake, because when his hands were on the wheel of that boat, literally a centimeter mistake could be a fatal accident for him. He loved that, and he wished he could take that to the rest of his life. He lived for it, and he said to me, why? You know, why would you do something that has so much suffering to it? And I said, you know, this is my first marathon swim, but what I liked about it, and I think I'm going to do more, is that just like life, you come upon a rough patch, you're at the bottom of a valley, you turn to your team and they help you, and you don't give up. It's easy to give up. I saw the other swimmers going by me in their boats in a nice warm blanket because they gave up. And I love the fact that, forget about where you finish or if you break the records, I love the fact that when I stumbled up onto that beach, I was a person who was strong inside and I could stand tall because I didn't give up. And that's what that sport was for me. I did it for 10 years. As I told you, I tried Cuba. So I was telling Chris this story backstage, and I told him also that, I'm so interested where we all get our philosophies of life. I'd love to come sit down in your chairs and have you all come up. We could take the next week, everybody come up 45 minutes at a time. And I'm sure you would tell stories about your grandmothers and your uncles and a particular wonderful teacher where when things were tough for you, you got some words of wisdom. Well, oddly enough for me, my words, a philosophy of life that I've lived all these days by, came to me when I was 17 years old. And oddly enough, they came from another teenager. I was walking down the pool deck toward the last 100-meter backstroke after 10 years of 4:30 in the morning, 1,000 sit-ups every day, never 999. I mean, the sacrifices ran so deep for me, I didn't even smoke pot in the parking lot in high school. I was all in. I have to make the top 3 in this 100-meter backstroke. Top 3 go on to the elite of the Olympic trials who are going to swim to go to Mexico City, 1968, Olympic Games, bow their heads, and receive medals for the United States of America. The others are going to go on to the rest of their lives. And I'm just walking down that pool deck with the weight of the world on my shoulders. 10 years. 4:30 in the morning, 365 days a year, never lost faith. I'm going to get there. I'm going to be one of the special ones. And my friend, Suzanne, she's 17. She comes over and she grabs me and she says, "What is going on with you? You look like you're in a daze." And I started in with, the coach and my family sacrifices and the sit-ups. And she said, stop it. She said, "You remember? It was just 6 months ago that you had us all sit in the bleachers, the whole team, and you gave us that wonderful speech about how we reach up and we look for that bright, nearly impossible star, that dream of ours. And then we tuck that away in our imaginations and we get down to the daily grind of discipline and focus. We put in the time, and one day, if we're not up touching that one magical star of the dream, we're up in the heavens breathing some pretty rarefied air. But you're the one who said the way you get there is here. It's with the laser focus. So what are you doing thinking about the big perspective?" She said, "Remember, we just watched that documentary on Billie Jean King. And Billie Jean says that when she gets to Wimbledon, she doesn't go over and look at the big draw and look at the big picture and say, oh yeah, and if I get her in the quarterfinals, I've read that her second serves improved a lot. No, Billie Jean is like a cheetah on the hunt. When she steps onto the grass of Wimbledon, she doesn't know who the opponent is. She doesn't know who the chair umpire is. She hasn't heard the weather report. She's not playing the match, the point. Billie Jean isn't even playing the ball. She's playing the fuzz on the ball. So the first Zen athlete. And as that ball comes over, cheetah on the hunt, she hits the most perfect backhand possible. If the ball comes back, there's Billie Jean at the net hitting the overhead, and 2 weeks later, she's walking around with the Wimbledon trophy above her head, which she did 20 times. Yeah. Billie Jean King, everybody. So my friend says, you get my point. It's the small focus that gets you there. She said, okay, maybe it's not as poetic as the fuzz on the tennis ball, but I want you to look at this little half-moon sliver of your pinky fingernail. That is the difference of the race you're about to swim as to who's going and who's going on to the rest of their lives. She has me under her spell. We're on the pool deck now, the two of us going like this. I said, yeah, I see it. She said, okay. How long does it take you, how much time in the 100-meter backstroke to swim that little sliver of a pinky fingernail? And I said, well, that's going to take 1,000th of a second. She said, no, it isn't. Come on, do the math. It's going to take a lot less than that. And I said, okay, you're right. You're right. That's going to take 1,000th of a second. She said, that's it. So why don't you walk up there to those blocks, and why don't you blast off with the shoulders you've worked so hard to build, and the heart that's unique to you. And when you touch that wall, don't look up at the scoreboard. Don't look around the pool. Close your eyes, close your fists, and say, I couldn't have done it a fingernail faster. She said, I guarantee you, no matter what happens, you'll have no regrets, and you'll move on to whichever you move on to without ever looking back. So now I've got laser focus. I get up there, I blast off, shoulders, heart, and when I hit that wall, I have no idea if I was first or eighth or where in between, and I close my eyes, I close my fists, and I say it, and I mean it. I couldn't have done it a fingernail faster. And I take a deep breath and open my eyes, and I was sixth. And this kid didn't go to Mexico City. And you know what? The wisdom of that teenage girl rang true throughout my system. It still rings true today. I went over and shook the three girls' hands and wished them luck who were moving on. I went into the locker room, and I thought for sure a flood of tears would come. My friend came into the locker room. She said, are you okay? And I said, yeah. And she said, you know why you're okay? It wasn't just that race. It was every day. For 10 years, you lived it that way. Now you go on and you live the rest of your life that way, and it will always be all right. You'll never have a regret. And I had a philosophy of life to live by, even though I didn't have an Olympic Games. Yeah. Yeah. So I had told Chris Reeve that fingernail story, and he loved that story. The day I told it to him, he said he was going to go home and tell his son. And then he said to me, well, you know the obvious question now. You said you were going to live the rest of your life that day when you walked out of that locker room as a teenager. A lot of years have gone by. Are you living that way? And I said, well, I don't want to misspeak. Can I get back to you on that? And Chris and I never did speak again. He passed away. And then my mom passed away. And then I turned 60. And I didn't like being 60. And I was just sort of choked with an existential anxiety of what I had done with my life. Was I the person I could admire? And I don't know if you know that Mary Oliver question, the poet Mary Oliver, but I was walking around that summer of turning 60, throwing that question out to myself rhetorically every day in every way. What is it you're doing with this one wild and precious life of yours? And one day it hit me like a ton of bricks. Cuba. After all these years, will the shoulders be there? Will the will be there? But that's my magical place. That's my emblem of living life large, of unwavering commitment, of the high, of tapping every drop of potential that's in you and surrounding yourself with a team who wants to live that way too. And so I tried, as Elaine mentioned in the introduction, and failed, and tried and failed, and tried and failed. And as we came toward that fifth attempt, the whole world had just declared the event impossible. It wasn't just me. It just can't be done. Dr. Timothy Noakes, whom you all may know, is one of the great sports scientists and nutritionists today at University of South Africa. He had helped me so much. He taught me that the goos and gels that are brilliant for shorter events, the marathon, etc. I know, with all due respect. When you're out there for this long a time, he said, I'm telling you, you need real food. You need real sandwiches, real pasta. You need absorption in the stomach. You need to treat your body as it's used to being treated every day. And I learned a great deal from Timothy, but he wrote me a letter. It's kind of a Dear John letter, really. And he said, look, I've done all the empirical studies. I've studied you, and I've studied the event, the glycogen depletion, the sleep deprivation, the inability to digest in the supine position, the saltwater exposure. The thing is impossible. But what Timothy forgot, and what all those people who declared this impossible forgot, was the power of the human spirit. Yeah. Yeah. Look at Augie today. I'm sure you were out here with tears streaming down your face. I was backstage. And I thought, how can that brave soul find a smile anymore? But he does, and he will until he can't anymore. Yeah. Now, my team was still with me, but at meetings at this point, they were saying, you know, Diana, have you ever seen Guam this time of year? It's just beautiful over there. And Bonnie, my rock, said she doesn't want to go. She says, look, if anybody could have done this already, it would have been you. It cannot be done. I've been out there. I've watched you almost die. I can't go through it again. And I said, Bonnie, you know, we've had that debate, all of us, humankind has, since going back to the Greeks, of the journey versus the destination. And anymore, this event for me, this dream, isn't about making it. It's about not giving up. She said, I'm in. And we're standing on the rocks at Marina Hemingway in Havana for the 5th time. I'm looking out that horizon, and I'm no longer a brash 28-year-old. I have more fear now because I know what's out there. But I also have that joy and awe that I didn't used to have. And the journey itself was thrilling, the discovery, the courage shown by all of us. I was so proud already, even before the 5th try. And Bonnie grabbed my shoulders and she said, let's find a way. The first day was almost glorious. I was singing my songs. We were covering ground. The navigator was happy with the current situation. The first night was hell on earth. I was vomiting into the jellyfish mask. We had heavy seas, and I couldn't feel with the silicone on the face where to take the breath. The mouth opening wasn't big enough to get up over the surf and take in just air. And I couldn't wait. Those jellyfish come up dusk and they go back down at dawn, and I couldn't wait for the sun to rise to get all that jellyfish gear off. You can't wear neoprene or any flotation gear, but these are sort of like the sprinter's skin suits that the tentacles can't go through. Surgeon's gloves on the hands that are difficult. They make your hands tired, but you won't be stung. Latex booties, and now we had this total covering, even the mouth to breathe. And I got through the night. I didn't make as much progress as we wanted because of all the clothing, but at sunrise took it off, and now the second day was good again. I'm a little bit tired. I did see the Taj Mahal over here. Just, you know, grand. I've never been there, but now I've seen it, so I don't need to go there. And that second night, I was just hanging on by a thread. I was cold. I couldn't keep the arms coming up. I was kind of dazed and forgot what we were doing. And Bonnie called me close to the boat, and she said, listen to me, listen to me. Look up, look to the right and over this way a little bit. Can you see on the horizon? You see that white light? And I did. I put my goggles on my forehead, and I said, oh, it's the sun. It's going to be, you know, the rays are going to make me warm, and I can take off the jellyfish gear and swim more easily. And she said, no, it's better than the sun. Those are the lights of Key West. And yeah, thank you, thank you. And that was the vision that I believed in, that I would not lose faith in for 35 years. It was there, and of course now we had 15 more hours to swim, and I decided during those 15 hours not to sing anymore, count anymore, no more Stephen Hawking. I just thought about this experience and what it meant to my life and all these people who were in it with me. And about 2 hours from the end, it was bright blue skies now, it was the middle of the day, my team came close by me in boats. And I couldn't talk well because I had these deep lacerations from the seawater exposure and the jellyfish mask cutting the inside of the mouth. But I slowly cried like a baby and told them, I guess I'm going to stumble up on that beach pretty soon, and I guess somebody's going to take my picture. I had no idea. We had no idea. But I tell you something, I didn't do this. We did this. We made history together. We didn't give up together. And I will never forget any of you for it. And we're about to go to Key West and Cuba for the year anniversary, all of my team together. And we will all be in each other's hearts and realize that every one of us, I think I have a will of iron, but every one of us reaches a low, and we need to turn to somebody for strength. And first it was Bonnie, but it was the entire team. I'm so proud. You know, Henry David Thoreau has a quote, and all these past 11 months or so since that day, that walk up on that beach, Smathers Beach in Key West, I've been thinking about this quote because it pertains and I feel it deeply. And it goes something like, when you achieve your dreams, it's not so much what you get. I just can't tell you how humbled I am to what I've been getting over these 11 months. I have sat in the Oval Office with President Obama, whom I admire terribly. I've signed a major book deal, and that publisher, Keynote, believes that I have a memoir of inspiration in me, and I hope so. I hope it means something to people. I mean, for gosh sakes, I've been on Dancing with the Stars. It doesn't get bigger than that. But the end of that phrase goes, when you achieve your dreams, it's not so much what you get. It's who you become. And all those questions, the Mary Oliver, what is it you're doing with this one wild and precious life of yours? I'm not a religious person, so I'm not going to look up to the sky to talk to Chris today, but I can say, Chris, I am back to living, so I just can't live it a fingernail better, and I know that's the way you guys go about your lives. It's such a privilege to be here with the name Jack LaLanne now on this trophy with my name. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very touched. Go get them, go